It's 9:11 in the morning, 31 degrees, and we welcome onto the show from Farmers National Bank, Jennifer Cochran. Good morning, Jennifer. How are you?
Hey, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing this morning?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you being on this morning, Jennifer. And you are the Vice President and Bank Security Officer. Is that right, at Farmers National Bank?
Yes, I'm our BSA officer.
Okay. So where are you from? First of all, introduce yourself
Sure.
to our listening audience. Give us the background of Jennifer Cochran.
I'm a local girl from here in Danville. I have been with Farmers for just over 16 years. I handle all different kinds of fraud cases, financial crime investigations. Obviously, we're going to talk about romance scams this morning. It's love is in the air. We're coming up on Valentine's Day, so
yeah. So that's we just about, it seems like every week or every other week, there's some sort of new scam that's out and about, right? And we just a couple of weeks ago, I think we were talking about a scam that was reported in the Harrodsburg area is what it was. Someone that was calling people claiming to be with the Mercer County Health Department and saying they were raising funds for a cancer awareness T-shirt. I mean, it's things like that every week, it seems like. And now here we are, 8 days away from Valentine's Day. It's next Tuesday, February 14th. And so we get in that time of year where people are looking for love in all the wrong places, as Johnny Lee would say. So tell us, Jennifer, first of all, what is a romance scam? Why is it such a major issue now for places like Danville, Boyle County, and throughout the United States?
So romance scams happen when you meet someone online and they pretend to be in love with you. They are going to gain your trust and then steal your money. So 2021 statistics from the Federal Trade Commission say that consumers lost $547 million to romance scammers. It's so underreported, though, and we know that.
Yeah. In terms of being underreported, people aren't reporting it just because of embarrassment, or they don't want to think that they've been scammed, or they still believe this person in contact with them?
Yeah, Joe, it's all of those things. I've dealt with so many romance scam victims, and there is a huge emotional piece to that. There's a huge embarrassment piece to that. And obviously they have, in some cases, incurred hundreds of thousands of dollars in losses to the scammers.
Yeah, what was the number that you said across the country? You just
547 million. So that was in 2021, and we think about how much worse that number got through COVID. One of the things we're going to talk about is how romance scammers really target people who are lonely and isolated. And so during COVID, everyone was staying in and online. And I think that when 2022 numbers come out, I think that it'll be another record year for romance scammers.
I think a lot of times when we talk about topics like this, people say, yeah, but this is a small town. That can't happen here. Or that's just big city, highfalutin type stuff. Do you have a number, or can you confirm that there are romance scams that have happened in this area?
Absolutely. We'll talk about a few of those. I want to start off by saying everyone thinks of a romance scam happening on a dating app.
Yes.
And that is so far from the truth.
Okay.
We have victims who met their scammers in online grief support groups, pretty low.
Yeah.
Through online gaming, words with friends. I have a victim, and her husband passed away just before COVID. COVID happened, and she joined an online grief support group. Met a romance scammer there. She actually traveled all over the country on her way to marry him in Europe, and she gets 6 states away and realizes it's a scam, and she's stuck with no money. So, we recently and these are local folks.
Yes, that's what I was asking. These are people that
right. These are local
in
folks
this area.
Just in the past month, we had an elderly gentleman, and he was not looking for companionship per se. He was just playing words with friends, and was chatting with someone there, Jennifer A. A few weeks go by, and she says, hey, let's move this conversation, and we'll get into some of those red flags too. She said, let's move this conversation to WhatsApp, so an alternate messaging platform. And, you wouldn't believe it. He was actually playing words with friends with Jennifer Aniston. That's what she told him.
That's okay. So Jennifer A.
was Jennifer Aniston,
the actress Jennifer Aniston.
Right.
He
So
thought she was
her
talking
dad,
to.
she tells him that her dad passed away in November. We know that Victor passed away in November, and she's going to inherit this money, and but she's got to be married first. And he's like, wait, I'm already married.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, that's okay, we can fake it. But I need money to pay the attorneys. So in about 6 weeks, he has sent her $15,000 in gift cards, traveling to local stores, $500 gift cards. So
it's just, I mean, it's, as Jennifer said, kind of starts off as a harmless type thing, and the conversation grows from there. And you mentioned some of the red flags. So how do romance scammers gain someone's trust enough to be able to get them to send them money? Then what are some of the red flags that if people are in a conversation, if these things start popping up, they can look at this and remember this conversation and say, oh, this could be a red flag of a romance scam.
All right. Joe, like I said, it's not just dating apps. It's Facebook. It's all kinds of social media. It's games. One of the things that they will do right off the bat is get you to move that conversation somewhere to like WhatsApp, Google Hangouts. It'll be an alternate messaging application.
Okay.
And those kind of have some anonymity to them, so they're harder to trace and track. And scammers are really good about adapting their lies to fit the situation. So, one of the victims that I have worked with, she mentioned to the scammer that, she had a son that passed away many years ago from leukemia. Guess what? He's a UN doctor working with the United Nations overseas, and he's helping sick children. And now he's in a place where the hospital won't treat the children until he gets some more money, and she's got to send him this money. So it's that exploitation on a very... they target and exploit those weaknesses of their victims. So we're talking about the red flags. Again, one of the first things they're going to ask you to message them somewhere that's private and anonymous. They are going to quickly tell you that this is destiny, this is fate, using overly romantic love language. If we have enough time, I'll tell you that I actually hooked up with a romance scammer last year.
Okay.
Just for the purpose of kind of understanding how this happens.
Okay, I would like to hear that story.
Yeah.
You were like an undercover cop type thing. You just wanted to see how this conversation went.
Well, I just couldn't understand it because, you think about your scam victims being older individuals maybe that are at home a lot, that don't have, a very fulfilling life. They don't have a large social circle. And that's not the case. We're seeing victims in their 30s, 40s, educated individuals that just have this great loneliness. Mm-hmm. So again, they're going to tell you that this is destiny.
Yeah.
That you all met, and it's going to be very overly romantic language. Like some of the things the romance scammer was saying to me, I'm like, I wouldn't believe this if my husband said it. Mm-hmm. It's just doesn't make sense at all. They're almost always going to say they're a U.S. citizen and they're living overseas.
Okay.
So they're recently widowed. They're looking for someone. Sometimes they have a child in boarding school. But the overseas thing is really big because they often work for something like the UN, some international organization, an oil rig. A lot of them work on oil rigs. They'll say they're an independent contractor. Or, like I said, the UN doctors, military, those are huge too. And then one of the reasons that you have to send them money in the military is to get them home because they're approaching retirement. We often talk to our victims and say, does this make sense? If you're retiring from the U.S. military, they're going to pay to fly you home.
Yeah.
You don't need to send money for that.
No,
right.
Yeah.
So does it make sense? They're going to be very vague when you ask them specific questions. It's almost like they've Googled your question.
Yes.
So
it sounds like the way you're talking, it sounds like they're vague. They let you tell the story, and they fill in their details based on the story that you tell them about your life.
Right. And so one of the goals of a romance scammer is kind of isolate you even further from your friends and family. They don't want you telling everyone
anyone that you're sending someone you don't know money.
Right. So they do this by trying to have this 24/7 contact with you. They're constantly going to message you, but there's always a reason they can't meet you in person. They're usually not going to be able to talk on the phone to you, so they're going to have some excuse. You're going to see situations where they'll say, well, I can't finish my contract. I need money. And that's something else I want to get into is the way that they ask you to pay. I know that you mentioned the health department scam here in Mercer County. I'm not sure how they were. I'm not familiar with that one, but scammers will ask you to send gift cards, Bitcoins, and they are so good at coaching their victims from the standpoint of, if you go to wire money at your bank, tell them it's to help pay for medical expenses for a friend or a family member. They just really they script what you're going to say. And they absolutely don't want you talking about it with friends or family.
Yeah. Well, members of the bank, you all as bank tellers are trained to, when someone comes in and tries to make a huge transfer or a wire transfer, immediately that's a red flag for you all, right?
Absolutely. We had a lady just here in the past few weeks. She's been scammed over some concert tickets. It's not necessarily a romance scam, but it was through, our frontline staff asking questions. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to protect our customers. We're trying to protect the bank. We obviously don't want to help you to facilitate a scam in any way. Once that money's gone, it's gone. It's almost impossible to get it back. We've had a few recoveries. Most of the time, it's gone.
Yeah. For those who are chatting or talking with someone online and they think that it could be a real conversation, I mean, obviously there's proof of people who have met on online dating sites or whatever and they've gotten married. However, if it is a scam, what are some ways to prevent it? How can someone prevent a romance scam to make sure they aren't being scammed?
Fact checking is a big one. So most romance scammers will steal legitimate identities, photographs from people online. So the man that I met last year, he had stolen the identity of a realtor in Texas.
Okay.
So did a Google reverse image search for the picture that he, had sent to me.
And you found him as a realtor in Texas.
Found him as a realtor in Texas.
Did you contact the realtor and tell him, hey, this guy's using your photo as a romance scam?
He has been widely used. So there's actually some posts out there, some blogs out there about how many times his image has been used to portray a romance scammer. So even what I found was a lot of these quotes, these love notes that you get from the romance scammer, you can do a Google search for them and it'll come up, that it's not them.
Yeah.
They're going to, again, just, it's too good to be true. And there's almost always going to be some promise of wealth, some type of payoff in the end. So if you can just send me a little bit of money to help me finish this contract, when I get back to the States, I've got $5 million in a bank account. A lot of excuses about how they can't access their money, they can't get to it, so they just need you to loan them a little bit.
Yeah.
And one of the challenges that we have when we deal with our victims is that if you've invested a little bit already, and to each person that can be $500, that can be $5,000, it doesn't matter. But once they've got that initial investment, if they stop playing, if they stop communication, and they cut off all ties, there's no hope that they're going to get their happy ending.
Yeah. Last question before we got a quick break coming up here. If someone is the victim of a romance scam, they found themselves as a victim, they believe now that what they've been doing is they've been scammed, what do they need to do?
Joe, I really do want to save that one until after the break, only because I've got a lot that we can offer.
Yes,
not just to our customers, but to anybody in our community.
So we'll take a quick break. We'll come back, and we'll ask that question and let Jennifer talk about that. If you're a victim of a romance scam, what do you do next? It's coming up right after this. It is 9:25 in the morning. We are with Farmers National Bank this morning on the Joe Show. And speaking of farmers,
would you like to receive a free gift? Refer a friend or family member to Farmers National Bank and receive your free gift. It's simple. Visit the bank's website at fnbky.com. And when your friend opens a Farmers National Bank checking account, you receive a free gift. Stop by a Farmers National Bank office in Danville, Bergen, Harrodsburg, Junction City, Lancaster, Liberty, Middleburg, Perryville, and Stanford. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Most people think water pollution is an industrial problem, but it's also a household problem. When you allow hazardous chemicals, paint, or even pet waste to wash down the storm drain, it goes directly into our water. That makes a huge mess today, and an even bigger mess for our kids to clean up tomorrow. It's time we all did our part to protect Kentucky's water. To find out how you can help, visit stormwater.ky.gov. Brought to you by the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet.
At Linux of Danville, we install all things hitch and towing related, from a gooseneck to a fifth wheel and even a classic receiver hitch. We also install wiring you need for your new hitch. Quality products made in America. Call us today, 59209-4033, or stop by 935 Stanford Road. Linux of Danville, we make tough look good.
Listen to WHIR online at hometownlive.net, powered by Kentucky, YMAX.com.
It's 9:27, 3 minutes away from Bottom Hour News, and we are joined in studio by Jennifer Cochran from Farmers National Bank, and talking romance scams. And we left off before that commercial break with our final question: someone who finds themselves a victim, or they believe they may be being victimized in a romance scam. Jennifer, what steps do they need to take? What do they need to do?
All right, Joe. So one of the things that I really want the listeners to know is that at Farmers National Bank, we really want to be a resource for our community. Whether you're a victim yourself, you think you might be a victim, you've just started talking to someone online and you're not sure, or if you have a friend or a family member that you are concerned is getting caught up in a scam, you don't have to be our customer. Just pick up the phone. Give me a call. I'll be glad to talk to you about it. Obviously, you can report it to your local police department. We have a great relationship with our local field office in Lexington, the local FBI office there. They are great about coming out and doing home visits, especially when we've got a victim that, we know it's a scam on the outside looking in, but they don't believe that. So we've got agents that will come right to their home and talk to them about it and point out some of those red flags that we've already talked about.
Okay.
There's all kinds of online resources through the Attorney General's office, through the Internet Crime Complaint Center. But if you do want to talk to a person, please pick up the phone and give us a call. It doesn't matter if you bank with us or not. We'll be glad to talk to you about it.
And one of the great things, Jennifer, and I'm a Farmers National Bank client, right? So I bank with you all. One of the great things about banking there is I almost always go to the East Main branch. It's where it's the closest branch to where I live. So they know who I am, right? And for most people, it's probably the same way. If they bank at a certain bank or they go to a certain branch, it's the one they go to because it's most convenient to them. And so when they walk in and they know the people behind the desk and the people know them and what they usually do and how they usually operate, if something is different about the way they're operating one day, then again, because there is that small town bank branch feel and you know each other personally, the teller's able to pick up on that.
Right. That's correct. Of course, a lot of times, like I said, your victims have been coached. So they're not going to go to the same place they've always been.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a red flag for us,
another
too.
red flag. They'll tell them, go to a different branch. Don't go to the one you usually go to, and they'll come up with some excuse as to why you need to do that.
Right.
Yeah. So if you have any questions about any of these romance scams, about scams in general, Jennifer, how can people get in touch with you all?
You can call us directly at 859-236-2926. Come into any of our local branches. And tell them you want to talk to Jennifer about scams. They'll be glad to put you in touch with me. We have an 800 number too that we can share out if you're not right there in Danville. But again, any of our counties, our market areas, will be glad to talk to you. It doesn't matter if you bank with us or not. We just want to prevent somebody else from losing money.
859-236-2926. Farmers National Bank. Jennifer, appreciate you being on and the great work that you all do. It's 9:30 in the morning. Bottom Hour News is coming. Ben Garant's on here right after this.